We love smoothies, and we like putting just a bunch of different stuff. So it's not only fruit, but we like putting a lot of nutritional vegetables into our smoothies as well. I'm going to show you the easiest way to make a green powder out of things that you can grow in the yard. This is the purple scarlet kale that I grew in the garden. And what I did was I dehydrated this in my dehydrator for about 5 or 6 hours. Now, if you don't have a dehydrator, the easy cheat that you could do is you could go to a Habitat for Humanity store or any other kind of secondhand store for like home building supplies. Get yourself a window screen and you can lay that out flat up off something, and you could just lay the kale out on their own. Don't overlap it too much, because the more that you overlap, the less airflow that there is in between those two pieces of kale or whatnot. So what we like to do is, this batch is kale, but there's also beet leaves in here as well, as you can see. So we put like collards, kale. When I was harvesting my sad broccoli, all those leaves, I dehydrated those. I've got cabbage leaves that are going to be dehydrated as well. I've got 2 cabbages that haven't really ripened yet. So all those cabbage leaves, I'll be dehydrating and turning it into a powder. Now, once it's dehydrated, all you have to do is go grab your blender. I find with the blender, when you first put the leaves in that have been dehydrated, don't stuff it too much because they do get stuck. And I always start on the absolute lowest setting because I find that the blades at the very bottom like to toss the leaves that much more when it's going as slow as possible versus when it's at high speed and it's just not doing anything. Like the bottom gets really, really powdered and then nothing else really moves because the blades are spinning so fast. So when you're doing this, start your blender off at the absolute lowest setting and then increase it slowly. It only takes about a minute to blend everything, and that's when you have that completely full. And the cool part is as you're doing your different batches, the intensity of green really changes. So you can see, like with the beet leaves and the scarlet kale, they tend to have a little bit more purple in it, and the color change is just incredible with each batch. Here's the massive box of grapes, and you can tell that there's a lot missing. We've just been fresh eating these, and it's right next to the kids' kitchen helpers, so they've been climbing up and then just grabbing this as is. And Sarah just actually grows this on top of her patio as a shade, so from the sun. So instead of having an actual roof over her porch, she just has these grapevines growing, and it produces so much fruit. It's crazy. But more importantly, they've got a lot of shade. So she gifted me all of these, which I'm so incredibly blessed. And this is what we're working with. So I'm gonna go wash these off, and then I gotta get all these little grapes off these, because when I make compote, I don't like using the stems. I know there's lots of people that use the stems when they put it in the water and boil it, but I find I can taste the stems. So it is a pain in the butt to do that extra step by taking these guys off. But at the end of the day, my juice tastes so much better. It's completely worth it to me. So what feels like a very, very long time later, I'm done the first batch. I had to go turn off the water in the sink. I have put in every once in a while, I'm finding stems still, so I'm just kind of retrieving them. But I've got about this many grapes, so about a third of this. Now again, this is a 32-liter pot, and I've got a third of it filled with grapes, and I stemmed them all. When you don't stem them, I find, or maybe I'm just really, really picky, I find that you can actually, I don't know, it tastes like kind of like sour or tart. I don't know, it's just me. I don't like the taste. I go through the painstaking task of taking all the stems off and popping them all off. It's completely worth it because then I have the most delicious juice, and that's the whole point of going through this whole process. I'm going to let this come up to a boil, and then I'm gonna let it simmer. Now, normally, if you have the appropriate stove for the pot that you have, you only need to boil this for maybe about 10 minutes, maybe 15. But because my stove is so much smaller than this pot, the burner really only like heats on the one side. So that's why I'm gonna go for longer. But if you have a pot or like a burner that can deal with this size of pot, 10, 15 minutes tops and you're done. My old house, I did have a center burner that, I miss that stove. I have to be honest with you. But this house does not, and it is what it is. I'm just gonna put on the cover. I'm gonna let this come up to a boil, and then I'll show you what that looks like. You can see that the grapes have lost all of their color. There's some that are still a little bit more purpley, but a lot of them have turned green. The seeds have come out, and we are now ready to start dishing out the juice. So you can see the juice has a nice rich color from when it's kind of turning over here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to be grabbing my soup ladle, and just for the first bit, just so I can get a lot of these that are floating, I've got a sieve here, and I'm going to be collecting the juice in my soup pot, and then I'm going to be transferring the soup, or basically this juice, into the jars. And I know this seems like a lot of steps, but when I was using the juicer and I was waiting so long just to get 500 mils of juice out of like a whole pot of peaches, like I thought I was really smart in getting that. I really don't see the point in it when you can easily make juice this way, and it saves you time in the long run. And you're not running your stove as long. Like I was running it for so long, and that little pot at the bottom, I had to fill twice up with water, and I still had barely any juice out of it. So I'm just, each one that I'm ladling, I'm getting juice, I'm getting grapes, and I'm getting seeds. Basically, I'm not filtering out anything. What I'm doing is I'm just mushing it up as best as I can in this. And you can see, like, that's already a couple ladles worth. And I've got some beautiful juice down at the bottom. And as always, I am in need of another bowl. I've got my bowl here, and I'm going to be using this bowl to discard all of the leftovers. Basically, it's just a pulpy mess. And that's what we're going to do. So at the end of this, I'm gonna have nice, beautiful, beautiful juice. I already have beautiful juice. And I don't smell it, but my husband just came home from running errands, and he said the house smells amazing. It smells like baked goods. So that's always a good sign. And each ladle, you're just gonna mash this up, and you're gonna see that your volume decreases in the sieve. And I'm just using the bottom of the ladle, just going around in a circle, and then dumping out. Now, what I don't need. Now, you just have to be careful that when you do this, I just remembered why you don't do this, is because this ladle is gonna have seeds on it, and I just put seeds at the bottom. But that's okay. If you get seeds at the bottom, what you can do is you can dunk this back in your juice until you don't have any seeds in there, kind of like to wash it off, and then you start all over again. And once you get really, really, really comfortable with this, what I like to do is I actually like using a small saucepan, like sauce pot, instead of a ladle, because you can get a lot more out of that than you can a soup ladle. Basically a soup ladle on steroids. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna gather up a whole bunch. You're still gonna put it under in the sieve, but now you're just able to get so much more juice out of there. And once you feel that you have enough, Then you're just gonna go back to your soup ladle. I'm just gonna start squishing it down. Now, I did have it resting in the juice, which seems like there's so much more, but you're just gonna pick it up because I've got quite a bit of juice in here in the soup pot. I'm just gonna stir it around. Sorry about my voice, guys. I don't know what kind of cold these kids gave me, but clearly they love to share everything, so my voice keeps going in and out. But in any case, that's what your basically leftovers look like. And back in it goes. So I'm just gonna rest this, and I'm gonna bring this over to the other side, and we're gonna get this jarred up. I don't know where all the footage of me actively water bath canning went, but regardless, this is me taking the cans out of the water bath canner once they're done. So in my Bernardin book, it says to water bath for 15 minutes. Now, I need to do an extra 5 minutes because of my elevation, but whether you're doing pints or quarts, it's the same time frame. And I found this on page 188 and 189, so if you're wanting to look it up in your book. And altogether, during this canning session, I was able to achieve 41 liters of grape juice, which is just mind-blowing. And I did leave a few grapes as fresh eating. And after about 3 days, my kids were kind of tired of eating the fresh grapes. And my little one actually requested that I make even some more grape juice because he saw how much grape juice we've got for the winter and he got all excited. So I ended up with just under 54 liters, which is just mind blowing at how much juice I'm able to actually get out of this using the old fashioned way of making juice. And I would have never ever been able to achieve this in this time frame had I still been using that steam juicer. So I am incredibly blessed that I was able to get this much done with the grapes. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode watching me make the grape juice and as well as the green powder. And I hope you got something out of today's episode. Thank you so much for coming to watch my channel. I really appreciate all the subscribers. There's not many of us, but we're a great group. And make sure you hit the like button and click subscribe. And until the next time, bye guys.